Hello, I'm Brittany, and welcome to Scorpio's Embrace. If you had joined me at Hallowed Homecoming at the beginning of this month, you got to see a little bit of it in person. I wanted to do a longer recording as there were many factors and we couldn't record it then. So in this video, we're going to dive into the energies of Scorpio, exploring the layers of this intense sign throughout the aspects of the body, mind, and spirit, through my particular niches of tarot, medical astrology, and herbalism. Just be warned, these are not absolutes for everyone. Everything can fluctuate based on circumstance, how we treat our bodies, and other influences. We are all cosmically stamped differently. Even though some of us may have similar aspects in planetary and sign stuff, we are still a unique person. Go over some qualities here of Scorpio. We already know about its timing in this calendar cycle, roughly between October 21st and November 20th. The main events, holidays, traditions, such is going to be Samhain, Dia de los Muertos, Halloween, All Hallows Eve, and other such veneration holidays. Here we're honoring the dead, the ancestors, and that which came before. Likewise, this is the final harvest season, and so we are prepping for the winter time. Some keywords we see are intensity, passion, a release, of course, as well as creation. We'll see, excuse me, further down the line that Scorpio also rules the reproductive system. So creation doesn't have to be necessarily, babies and procreation. We can give life to ideas and such as music, art, other medias. Traditionally governed by Mars, and within the last 100 years, also Pluto. We can see both the qualities of these planets in Scorpio, and especially with the intensity and the passion. This works on both those levels. Here, intensity is also fast-paced, such as Mars is with its 2-year cycle. Passion is also slow-burning, so much like Pluto with its 250-year cycle. When it comes to the medical astrology, the temperatures or temperaments as a quality energetics, as it were, we're seeing Pluto has cold, slow depression quality, and Mars has fast heat excitation. We'll see how that plays out later on. Scorpio is located in the 8th house here on the astrological chart. Sign 1, house 1 is the rising sign, and this is going to be, and the default is Aries, but it's when you're stamped, where was the sun rising, and we'll see that in a little bit as well. So starting with number 1, counterclockwise to 8 to Scorpio, and then finishing back off at 12 with Pisces. Speaking of Pisces, Scorpio is a water element water element sign as well, but is a different type of water element. You'll see we have 4 elements and 3 modes to give it the 12 signs. Scorpio being water, that's the emotional body. With fixed, this is heavy. Fixed mode. This is going to be a heavier kind of setting. We see with the elements that we have fire, earth, air, and water. Fire being the spark of awareness, consciousness. Taurus being our sensory body or feelings, the physical self as well. Gemini is our mental body or communication, thought. And then Cancer would be the first of the emotional body. Scorpio being the fixed, middle of the season, we have cardinal. Water is going to be Cancer. This is like a stream. It's surface level water. It's not truly deep emotional like Scorpio will learn is. Scorpio being fixed water, that's ice in the state of matter is the best way I was described too. Sorry, it's been a very long day, so my words might be jumbled. And then, of course, we have Pisces as the third of the emotional bodies with mutable water or steam, vapor. Both Scorpio and Pisces work on the mysticism, spiritual level, but in different ways. Scorpio is more of our inner world and those feelings surrounding that. We see more of like the occult with this versus faith. Where we see in Pisces, it's like steam. We may not always see it, right? Especially right after a shower or right after a rainstorm. If it's humid, we may not see that vapor, but it's there. Immutable will finish out the season going into the next. Next, we'll kind of break it down a little bit deeper and more focused, as it were. I briefly mentioned the rising sign. That's always going to be house 1. And here we have 2 charts to kind of compare the different aspects, though we won't go into that today because it's very deep. Again, we're all stamped differently. It all's going to look the same, even though, again, my partner and I have Scorpio rising. It may look the same, similar in some days. It may not, because based how other charts and influences happen. Astrology is just the language of the stars. It's what ancients had to learn, one, to treat the body, but how they got around, how they communicated. It's just another language, one that I understand very well. And so with Scorpio rising, the rising sign is going to be how we portray ourselves, our personality. If the qualities we saw with the keywords before, right? Creation, intensity, passion. So I'm going to portray myself outwardly passionate about things that I enjoy. When it comes to medical astrology, Scorpio rising tends to have dark brown, like ruddy brown hair. The rising sign is also our physical buildup, our constitution. And if house 1 is the rising sign, how we portray ourselves, then house 7, the opposite, is going to be how others perceive us or how we perceive others, as it is a spectrum and it fluctuates. It's never truly black and white. It's a rainbow. There's all blends in there. Excuse me, cat. Next, we have the sun sign, which is the core essence of who we are. So here I've got my sun in Cancer. My partner has his in Capricorn. Opposite there already on the signs. And then even more opposite is mine's 3:30 in the afternoon, so it's above the horizon line here. And he was born 4:30 in the morning, 4:15 in the morning, so he's going to be below in the darker under the horizon line here. Earth is this X right in the middle. So that's the core essence of who we are. We want to align that with how we portray ourselves. Now with Cancer is also some keywords for her. It's going to be the mother archetype. Caring, nurturing. It's the home, it's the family. Opposite, Capricorn, is the paternal side, the patriarch. Go back a moment. Here we see on the chart, Cancer's at the bottom and Capricorn's at the very top, the mountain goat. So we're looking at the home and work life here. So with that, my qualities would be, yeah, I'm a very caring person. It being in the 9th house of Sagittarius, I am also very much I like to travel. I like to learn big things. And to get to know more so I can care and be able to do what I want to do for others, essentially. With the moon, that's going to be our emotional sign. The moon happens to rule Cancer, and so of course it's going to blend the qualities there. My moon is going to be in Taurus. Taurus, the opposite of Scorpio, is about fertility. It's about growth. It's dead of spring. So this is, very prime fertility. If Scorpio is about release and harvest, we have to reap. So we're reaping what we sow, and we're sowing in the spring. I will be able to get this out. And so some other things, it being the bull as a symbol, could lead to stubbornness. This could also be groundedness as well. Values is what Taurus rules. So this could be how I'm feeling valued. And if it's in the sign of the others, then it's going to reflect how others value me, which then in turn is going to how I portray myself. Ironically, it's opposite of Pluto in Scorpio. So we're looking at even more intensity, right? Because again, it's the rulership. So there's going to have similar qualities. And then just for shits and giggles here, it's got, it's squaring. So both my Pluto and my moon are squaring Mars and Leo. Basically, it's more or less saying if my emotions and feeling valued are being challenged, it challenges my self-esteem and how I portray myself. Am I more introverted or am I more extroverted in that case? Because I do. When I feel good, I feel more out there. If I'm nervous and shy, I'm more Cancer crab in my shell. So I'm not going to go over all the aspects and details here in planets because that's a whole nother video. And I want to show the difference here. This is a whole sign style. It's easier, or at least easier for me to learn the signs and everything that way, in order to, when we go to the default here on this side, we can see how the house doesn't always match exactly up with the sign, because that's just not how it looks in the stars, right? But we can understand how they work separately and how they work blended together as a harmonious whole, even with the challenges. Next, we have the body part of Scorpio. And so this is going to be on the physical level. Previously mentioned, it rules the reproductive system with individual planet rulership. Mars, of course, being the male, Venus being the female. That's going to be the gonads, sperm, that. Venus, the ovaries, the uterus. And it does share womb rulership with the moon. I'm trying so hard not to step on my cat's tail because she wants to be at the fire. So it's ruling release. Well, in the physical body, that's going to be the large intestines, the channels of elimination, and the excretory system, right? We have to release stuff somewhere. This includes bladder, colon, sweat glands like sebaceous glands in our armpits, the pores of our skin, and our nose. To understand this system a little bit more, we got to understand the opposition spectrum, or opposition side on the spectrum, which is Taurus. If Scorpio is elimination, Taurus is ingestion. Taurus rules the ears, the lower jaw, the throat, esophagus, thyroid, this area, as well as metabolism. Now, though Jupiter does not rule Taurus, Venus does, Jupiter rules metabolism. So there's some qualities shared there. So basically, important thing to know is if we're not absorbing things right, then it can just go through us, or it can sit and stagnate as well if it's not properly being absorbed. An example I can give is I'm a chronic coffee drinker, and coffee is a diuretic herb. So I'm using the bathroom a lot after having, 8 to 16 cups in the morning. It's almost on a system. A lot of us are going to be like that. And that drives me out. And I can feel it in my dry hands and my dry skin. And so even though I'm drinking 64 ounces water a day, it's not making much of a difference if I'm drinking other things and ingesting other things that are drying my body out. So very much a moderation is key, but hey, we all have our vices and our methods of coping, so we just gotta learn and be aware. Scorpio is a very much self-awareness sign as well, right? We're getting into our inner worlds. Like, you have to have a self-awareness of being like, all right, this ain't working. I've been doing the same thing, getting the same pattern. So yeah, just like on the physical level, we can do the same keywords and associations on the mind and on the spirit. For letting things sit too long, it's gonna constipate our mind, constipate our bodies, fester, putrefy. Sometimes things just, the term, in one ear and out the other. It's not getting absorbed properly, not getting retained. And sometimes one issue, can cause for another issue on another level. I'm doing my best here, y'all. Sometimes if we're stressed out too much, we get a little pudge or acne, especially like me. I love sugar. I love chocolate. If I'm eating too much, that can back me up sometimes. But again, we all have our things. And of course, there's a difference between shoving things under the rug and aside and never dealing with it versus saying, hey, maybe I'm not in the right headspace, or maybe I need to sit down and process and plan this out and see, hey, what is working for me, what isn't. Journaling is great here. If you don't like to write, voice recorders are always good. But just kind of like getting these thoughts and feelings out, and sorting through the mess. Everyone's story looks different, right? So we all have our ways. Next section, we've got our herbs. I've got 3 herbs to go over that will help on the Scorpio, even the Taurus level, as well as some sneaky ones in there. Starting off with a big scorpionic herb would be nettles. Now, it does work on the fire element of the body, but here it's mostly going to be on the waters of the body. And it's a fixed water herb ruled by Mars. What does that mean? Fixed would be talking that it is a very mineral-rich, nutrient-rich herb, such as iron, protein, vitamin C, potassium, silica. Very nutritive, bodybuilding herbs here. Mars happens to rule iron, happens to rule protein. So there's those correspondences. The water, how does it work on the water system? Well, it's systemically, but notably the kidneys and the urinary tract, it's a diuretic, so it is flushing the system of excess water. We're talking about edema, swelling of the ankles, let's see, trying to think of other methods. But yeah, if you're just kind of like overly hydrated, right? Part of the absorption thing is the vitamins. You know, every time you pee, you're peeing out potassium, and so nettles helps by putting that back into your body. All parts are used, but it's mostly the leaves and the roots. Leaves are going to be mostly best to harvest in the spring, roots in the fall. That's where the energies are the most potent for these parts of the plant. Has a salty taste and a bit of a sweet one, but I feel like the salty one is more noticeable. It's been used in dishes such as pesto, stews, and soups. I like to use it with like my parsley, my cilantro. Again, it gives that nice earthy taste, so a good broth. Next up, we have burdock. This is one of my favorite plants. Let's see if y'all can see this burdock root I harvested about a year ago. And so burdock is going to be fixed earth ruled by Jupiter. Previously mentioned is Jupiter rules metabolism. So this plant is working on the Taurus side of things. And well, we see that with the fixed earth, right? Fixed water being Scorpio, fixed earth being Taurus. In this case, so there are two words in the community, or I guess world, called antipathetic, so opposite of the sign we are working with, and sympathetic, similar. So this would be antipathetic. It's filled also, again, with nutrients, right? We got that fixed quality there. And prebiotics. This is working on the metabolism, and part of that is a proper digestive system. So it's doing so prebiotics, helping that gut flora and helping the ecology of our digestion. The roots are used, also good in soups. It's they call it gobo, I believe, as well. So it makes for a nice root vegetable. You want to use it damn near immediately, though, because after a while it does dry pretty damn hard. And good luck cutting it. It does have diuretic qualities, can be draining in the fluids, but is actually mostly an alternative as an action and a blood purifier. So here it's altering conditions of the body by opening channels of elimination. Rather than the urinary tract, though, with metabolism being its key component here, it's doing it mostly through the liver, the lymphs, the blood, basically cleansing. Now, burdock is cool that it also adds oil to the body in that it helps with the gallbladder secretion. So that's going to help process things better, right? If our systems are backed up, then we're processing slow, right? It's like when a car needs an oil change. Yeah, as my teacher, Sage Popham, had described wonderfully, honestly. It was the best visualization. Whereas if we're going and moving too fast, right, that heat excitation thing, then we're burning that oil too fast. And those who have thyroid problems, such as myself, Hashimoto's hypothyroid, that super gets messed up with the hormonal imbalance there. And that's a whole other topic. But burdock does help that. Cleanses out the lymphs too, because, you know, for me, I can feel it start to hurt right here. We see congestion in the body with acne, right? Dry acne is, you know, kind of scabby, whereas that oily excess is going to be more sebaceous and bubbly. Y'all at 7, I'm trying. And last but not least is my favorite plant, and that's going to be Solomon seal. I have here a root of it that I harvested. It looks like a little chicken foot. It's pretty fucking awesome. Now, I personally have not assigned a mode to this plant, as I have found it works on 2 modes, but it does work on the water element of the body. And it is ruled by Saturn. And, well, the only thing corresponding really here of that line is the water element. But, like I said, I think it works on 2 modes. The fixed, so the Scorpio Taurus axis, and then the cardinal axis of Cancer Capricorn. And because it is ruled by Saturn. Saturn rules the connective tissues, the structure of the body. That means our skin, our bones, right? Pretty much what's holding everything inside is Saturn. And fixed, again, we've got those minerals. It's a root plant here. Don't want to touch the top part. There is a way to cook the baby shoots, but I don't know that. I'm not going to offer any of that. Be safe, y'all. Real quick, speaking of being safe, always check with your doctor before mixing anything. Don't want any bad reactions or contraindications. But yeah, so back to the thing. Water element. It's working on the waters of our body. It's helping our joint lubrication. On the Scorpio level. And so that's going to be the Capricorn and Cancer axis. Sorry, off topic. So by working on the waters of the body and the structures and skeletal parts of the body, it is on that Cancer Capricorn axis. However, it does work on the Scorpio Taurus axis on a physical level. It helps improve the sperm quality. I don't know if you can really see it in the picture, but its flowers give off like male genitalia. You can kind of see, like it's called the doctrine of signatures. What it would oh my god, ancients would like kind of correspond them with was how the plant looked and what it related to in the body. I find the best time to harvest this plant is, of course, in Scorpio. It's mostly used on the spiritual side of things. I like to personally put it in my coffee because it's a demulcent. It's going to counteract the coffee diuretic properties by adding moisture back in, or just balancing out and keeping the water from leaving. But I find it works on the spiritual side of Scorpio, rather than on the physical side more, through shadow work. It looks like a chicken foot, like I said. It gives me Baba Yaga vibes. And so, I feel you could easily work with her when you have to get into that inner world, right? When you have to work through some shit. Cool thing about her as well is you can cut only what you need, and she propagates out in the dirt. So I've had this plant for 3 years now, and I just keep taking what I need. Couple more sections here. The next one being the tarot, and we have 4 cards, and starting with death being number 1, of course. Again, that release. This is exposing ourselves, things that, we're hiding away from the world. Veneration, honoring which came before. That doesn't just mean a physical death, a person. That can also mean something inside that we have to release. Limiting beliefs, ideals, doubts, ideals of who we wanted to be, right? Toxic patterns, relationships of any type. The death card, this is all about stripping back the curtain, acknowledging where we are now, so we can get where we want to be in our growth. I have 4 different styles here. The Thoth deck, the Rachel True Heart, the Herbal Rider Waite style, and the Herb Crafter deck style. So they each have their own artistic symbolism, but they boil down to the same thing. Next up, we have the suit of cups, and we have the 5, 6, and 7 of cups to represent Scorpio. The cups in the deck is going to be the water element. Fire is going to be wands, air is swords, and discs or pentacles is going to be earth. So 5 of cups, we have, when you're looking at the Thoth deck, this is going to be the Mars and Scorpio. The Thoth is very alchemical, very layered, so there's different meanings. Now the key word here is disappointment, and that comes in many forms, right? If you look down here, we've all sat in a, well, many of us have sat in a tub crying because, you know, we disappointed ourselves or we disappointed somebody else, and now we're deep in our feels, right? Up above it here on the Thoth card, you've got cups, 5 cups here, some liquid coming out but not getting in the cups, and then what looks like lily pads, or here in this case of blatant symbolism, is ovaries, because that clearly looks like sperm, and, well, missed opportunity. Doesn't always, again, have to be physical. A missed opportunity can be anywhere in life. This is, again, just a visual way of understanding stuff. Just another language. And how we communicate with ourselves, with Source, with Divine, God, whatever you want to call it. Next up, we have the 6 of Cups, and that's the Sun in Scorpio. This is pleasure. Not just sexual pleasure. It's more of an in the moment, in the present, just here, right now kind of pleasure, joy. Here we see in the Thoth card, it's going to be very flowy. There's no excess, there's no deficiency, it's all balanced. You can't quite see it, but there's some glasses of wine here on the table right next to the lakeside. That's very, like, just in the moment. No expectations, no responsibilities, no chores, right? No worries. And then, of course, sharing with other people. 6 in general is about sharing, so having cute, kind of little flirty with some watermelon, enjoying a nice snack. This is pretty much emotional feel-goods on a deep level. And what can inspire and lift us up out of that sadness and hurt of disappointment we were just in. But too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. And that can lead us to the 7 of Cups, the Venus in Scorpio, or debauchery. Issues such as overuse, abuse, addiction, many words to describe this card. Choices is big in 7s, so here it's like choices that can overwhelm us. And the Thoth deck card, it's very swampy, it's gross, it's stagnation. It's like, where do we start to fix the clog, right? And this one, it's just cluttery. I look at this card and I struggle because it's just, there's like throwing sticks, divination sticks down here, trying to figure out, like, what's that going on? Bunch of glassware, some books. Very complex. I don't know. And then, of course, our typical style cards here with our cups and our choices. You can't probably quite see it, but there's things like a mask representing arts, things that we're passionate about, our hobbies, jewelry that can be, value, money, heart, relationships. The dragon, particularly that I find to be escape or fantasy, right? So, like I said, I like too much sugar. I like to carbs and bread are my thing. But that can screw with me, especially with my thyroid issues. So it's about moderation. It's about being self-aware, saying, hey, maybe not too much today because we binged yesterday. Everyone's different. This is just my personal experience. Things I've observed and noticed and recognized. Finally, we have the animal section. And oh look, we didn't go too far over. We already know the scorpion. That's the symbol for Scorpio. And very much, it's the inner world again here. It's the scorpion lives in caves. That's where it does most of its work. So too do we require going inward and working with our shadows and our caves that maybe we not want exposed. And it doesn't have to be exposed to the world, right? Like, journal. Get it out so it's not just festering inside. The snake, it's shedding its skin. Unless you're microscopically, micromanaging it, you're not really going to notice the growth, but it is happening. And so shedding that skin to be renewed, right? Releasing the old. It's okay to update your beliefs based on changes and things that you have witnessed, We don't all get the privilege of having the same experience and upbringing and education. So, we're continuing to grow, continuing to evolve. Kind of leads us right here to the next one of the Phoenix, right? And the Phoenix is very much on par with the reproductive cycle of that story of life, birth and death, right? Once that other part has died, we have to be reborn again. We rise up, get that new flame growing. That's on par definitely with Mars, right? If Mars is fire, Aries, ruled by Mars, is that spark of creation. So too is the Phoenix. And then lastly, the eagle. There are, of course, bats and spiders and other creatures that work very well here. But the eagle is a very spooky, but we got to come out of that darkness, out of those caves, and fly to the next sign of Sagittarius. That's that arrow. It's not the archer. It's the arrow going to our goal. It's our next point on the chart here. And so we got to shine like we're meant to be. And the eagle represents that, being high in the air. Thank you for being here with me and joining me and bearing with me as we got through this, because I'm sure I dipped my volume down. I am fidgety, and because this is how I am. I forgot to mention it. I do have Gemini in my 8th house of Scorpio. So as a good, what does that mean? Well, this right here, with Mercury and Jupiter in Gemini is in that place as well. This is very much me liking to talk about Scorpio, about the occult, about things I'm passionate about, right? It's not just Scorpio or astrology. It's things I'm passionate about. Keywords. It's just telling a story. And it's fascinating. But this is my website. This is QR to get to all that. But I'm going to keep doing this. So let me know what you think. And if you do have some critiquing feedback, please be nice about it. I am a Cincy bitch.